And welcome everyone. We're going to just 1 second. Okay,
Awesome.
great.
So everyone, in addition to us being able to serve you from wherever you are in the world, I want you to keep in mind that you're able to contact us in English, Spanish, French, or Haitian Creole. We're more than happy to serve you. So if you have any questions regarding your immigration related topics, feel free to contact us. Our phone number is 305-371-8846. You can call us or email us at intro, INTRO, at elizeelawfirm.com. So, everyone, my name is Catalina. I am the leader here at the acquisitions team for Elizee Law Firm. And of course, I'm here to introduce you to our managing attorney, Patricia Elizee. She's going to be guiding us through our topic at hand. Feel free to welcome her and also to ask your questions here on the chat.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our monthly webinar. I'm really excited for this topic this month because citizenship is really hot right now. And we'll go into that why of all of the times I would speak to a client. This is definitely the time I would recommend that they file for citizenship if they qualify and they're ready. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome. We're gonna dive right into it.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. One moment, please. Okay, so the topic at hand for today is why citizenship is your best investment for 2024. As we introduced you earlier, Attorney Patricia Elizee is our managing partner here at Elizee Law Firm. She's been all over. You've definitely seen her somewhere on the news. You've absolutely seen her as well in different publications, everywhere, essentially. So, we're more than happy to assist you with your immigration-related topic. Remember, elizeelawfirm.com, or you can contact us over the phone or by email. It's on the bottom of the screen for your reference, the whole presentation. So let's get started.
Awesome. So we're going to take the time to show you guys a quick clip of a presentation online, a quick movie that really summarizes the importance of becoming a citizen and also the value behind it.
Perfect. So one moment, let me just get this going for you guys. Here we go. Alrighty, is everybody able to see? Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It's a little less than 3 minutes, so just bear with us.
Let's go the old-fashioned way and just present it directly from YouTube.
All right, so if we're not able to play the recording, that's okay. Can you go back to the PowerPoint? So what we wanted to show you was just a brief clip of a journey from being undocumented to being a U.S. citizen and the impact that it has not only on individual immigrants, but their entire families. I am an immigrant myself. My family and I immigrated to the U.S. from Haiti back in the 1990s, like a lot of other Haitian immigrants. We have, as everyone knows, the US is a nation made up of immigrants. And we all remember coming here as children or as young adults and having to navigate through the system. when you are finally able to first have your green card and have that flexibility, not only to travel and to work, that's a great feeling and a great experience, but actually applying and getting your US passport brings a lot of pride for yourself, and also you understand the value of it. As immigrants, we understand the value of becoming a US citizen, of being able to travel the world with less restrictions, having the ability to file petitions for our family members. As a green card holder, yes, you're able to file some petitions for family members, but for US citizens, you are given a priority, and you're also able to petition for your fiance. So everyone has their own story, and we had wanted to just kind of highlight this story here of this young lady, but unfortunately the clip is not working, where you can really see the emotion behind it, of going through the process and finally succeeding, and where you finally have access to things that everyone else in your community does, and understanding the value of that for yourself and for your family moving forward. Okay, next slide,
Thank
please.
you, Attorney.
So let's start here. Again, if you guys have any questions, you are welcome to drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure to answer them as we go through the slides. So who can become a US citizen, right? And again, this presentation is geared towards not immigrants who have an ability to claim citizenship at birth, or children of immigrants who become citizens while the child is under the age of 18. That would be outside of the scope of today's conversation. Here, really, we're focused on adult immigrants who are able to naturalize, who are able to ask to become a US citizen after the fact that they've had their green cards. So for the most part, there's going to be two main categories of green card holders who are able to apply to become citizens. The first one is a green card holder that's had their green card for over 5 years and above the age of 18. The other is you're over the age of 18, you've been married to a US citizen for 3 years, you continue to be married to that US citizen, and you apply for your citizenship. So the main difference is, how did you get your green card in the first place, right? So we have clients who get their green cards in a lot of different ways. You can get your green card from a parent, you could get a green card from a sibling, you can get a green card from being a special immigrant juvenile. So that's a minor who the state has found to have been abandoned, abused, or neglected. So those immigrants have to wait until they've had the green card for a minimum of 5 years and they're 18 years old and have no other special circumstances to apply for a green card. However, if you got your green card through your spouse and your spouse is a US citizen, instead of having to wait 5 years, you are eligible to apply for your green card after having your green card from your spouse for 3 years. So sometimes it can be a little confusing, because very often, if you get your citizenship from a spouse and it's a brand new marriage, you'll get a 2-year green card, which is often called the conditional green card, right? When you have the conditional green card, is because you haven't been married for more than 2 years by the time your green card was approved. So to go from the 2-year green card to a 10-year green card or a permanent green card, you have the requirement of filing the I-751, which is the petition to remove the conditions on your 2-year green card, 90 days before that 2-year deadline. At that time, the case is looked at again to verify you're still married to your petitioner, the relationship is still intact, before they issue the 10-year green card. In the last 2 years, there's been a huge delay in these I-751s. So let's say that your I-751 has been pending for over a year, which means that you've had your green card now for 3 years counting. Are you able to file to become a citizen even though you have that pending I-751? The answer is yes, absolutely, you can. And we've actually been able to help quite a number of immigrants with this problem. Because of the huge delay with the I-751, by filing that citizenship application that you qualify for based on the 3-year marriage, the citizenship application was going to push along that I-751. So very often what happens is, when we go to the in-person appointment for that citizenship application, we make sure to go with the spouse, so that the immigration officer who has your physical file in front of them is able to make a final decision on both the I-751 and the citizenship at the same time. So very often someone can go from having a 2-year green card, going to an in-person appointment, getting their 10-year green card approved, and getting their citizenship approved on the same day. So you do not have to wait for your I-751 or your 10-year green card to be approved if you've had your conditional green card for more than 2 years and you qualify, meaning you're still married to your spouse who's a U.S. citizen who has petitioned for you to get that green card. I don't know if you have any questions about those two distinctions before we move on.
Thank you, attorney. Actually, one of the questions was, what if my 751 is still pending? But I think you just kind of went through the whole process there. So thank you so much for that, attorney.
Exactly.
Let's move
Yeah.
on.
So other ways of qualifying to become a citizen is there are special circumstances if you're part of the U.S. military, and as well if you are a VAWA recipient. And for those who are not familiar, VAWA is a special program that is for victims of domestic violence for the most part that are married to U.S. citizens or green card holders. So if you are able to self-petition, which means you're asking for your own green card because your spouse is abusing you on an extreme level, once you have that green card, you will be able to also apply and become a U.S. citizen.
Wonderful. Thank you, attorney.
So what are the requirements of filing the N-400? The N-400 is the official application, is the official USCIS form that has to be filed, completed fully so that immigration can review your request to become a citizen. What should you send in with that application? Well, firstly, you need to send in a copy of your green card, and you need to send in the copy of the front and back of your green card with your citizenship application, right? For your citizenship application to be approved at the in-person USCIS appointment, you're gonna have to pass the English test and the civics exam. So the English test is pretty straightforward. The officer wants to see if you're able to hold a conversation in English, a basic conversation in English, and if you're able to write a simple sentence. So the way that we prep our clients, for example, is we'll give them orders for them to follow. Please come into the room, raise your right hand, please have a seat, have a simple conversation, how was your day? And when it comes to the writing exam, they just have to study a little bit because the immigration officer may ask them to write something as, Washington was the first president, or, we currently live in Florida, something very simple for them to write on an iPad. And the civics exam are those 100 questions that are listed online that we're going to go through a little bit later in the presentation, where they'll ask you about 10 questions and they want to see that you get the majority of the questions correctly. The immigration officer is also going to be looking at your good moral character. What does that mean? Good moral character is they're going to look to see if you've ever been arrested, if you've ever been stopped, and they're really going to be focusing on the last 5 years since you filed your application. They also want to see, for example, if you've been providing support to your minor children, and if you've been providing support, if you've been ordered to pay alimony, okay? So if you are divorced, for example, and if you're male and you're no longer living with your children, you want to provide evidence that you are taking care of your kids. Even if you were never divorced, let's say that you have a child, out of wedlock, you also want to make sure you provide evidence that you are financially taking care of your child, regardless where their child is, right? Because you can be male and have a green card, you have a minor child that's abroad, USCIS still wants to see evidence of you supporting those minor children in order for them to make a positive finding of good moral character so that you can get your citizenship. And the evidence that you want to provide are a letter from mom, if possible, with her ID certifying that you've been taking care of the kids, or evidence of any funds that you've been able to wire over, or checks, or anything of that nature, okay? Something else to be mindful of, which is really important, is continuous residence and continual presence. So we'll go into that a little bit in the presentation, but in the application, you'll notice immigration will actually ask you to list all of your travels for the last 5 years before the filing of the N-400, every single one of those travels. So you want to make sure you have the date you left the US, the date you came back, the number of overnights, and the countries that you visited. Once you list all of the days in the last 5 years, then you have to go ahead and put the total number of days that you've been out. And immigration wants to see that you've been physically inside of the country more than you've been out, and as well that you haven't had any single trips longer than 6 months. And finally, if you're a male and you've been here and you were under the age of 26 at the time, they want to see that you've signed up for a selective service. And if you did not, it's as simple as providing an information letter from the selective service and statement regarding that you didn't realize you had that obligation. So all of this to say, it's a little harder for men to become U.S. citizens, unfortunately, because they do have to provide more evidence, especially if they have minor children.
All righty, attorney, before we move on to the next topic, I have a question here from one of our attendees. They're asking if you have been married and living with a U.S. citizen for more than 18 years, and the U.S. citizen has been a citizen for the past 15 years, will I have to get a green card before applying for citizenship?
Yes. So to qualify for citizenship, first you must have that green card. That U.S. citizen must first file for you to become a green card holder. Once you have your, because you've been married for so long, you will automatically get a 10-year green card instead of a 2-year green card. So after having that green card for 3 years, if you're still married to that U.S. citizen, then you will be eligible to file for citizenship.
All righty, thank you for that, attorney. And then one more question from one of our viewers is, what if I lost my green card and I'm in the process of getting a new copy? Is this going to be an impediment? Is the copy, I'm thinking the question is because of the first point. Having a copy of the green card, if you lost it, do you have to wait for it to be reissued in order for you to apply?
So it is definitely recommended that you wait to get a copy of the front and back of your green card. So we've had situation which is different from if the green card is expired. If the green card is expired and you filed an application for the green card to be renewed, you do not have to wait for the renewal to be approved. You can go ahead and apply with a copy of the expired green card and apply for citizenship. And what we would advise is to just go ahead and put a copy of the receipt showing that the renewal is pending, but you don't have to wait for the actual card to be issued. Now, if you don't have a copy of your green card at all, that's a little bit more complicated. I would probably, I would advise to wait to get a copy of the green card just so that your application is complete and everything is okay.
Got it. Thank you, attorney.
Yeah.
So moving on to the continuous presence and physical presence that we had been discussing earlier.
Sure. So we all know that being a green card holder, the legal term is lawful permanent resident, which means as a green card holder, you have the legal obligation to lawfully, permanently reside in the US. Unfortunately, a good number of green card holders don't want to remain in the US permanently. They want to be able to live abroad with their families and have the ability to enter and travel in the US without restrictions. That is not what a green card is for. So if you do that, you are risking, right, breaking your continuous presence and your physical presence requirement. And in the application, it tells you if you have any trips for longer than 6 months, but less than a year, then it's a little bit of a question mark whether you qualify or not, which is why they give you the opportunity to show that even though you had 1 or 2 trips longer than 6 months, if you're able to present rent or mortgage statements, bank or credit card statements, your car registration, proof that you've paid your taxes, et cetera, they may forgive 1 or 2 trips longer than 6 months. However, if you go to the next slide, we can kind of go into more detail of the requirements for both the continuous and physical presence requirements. So for continuous residence and for physical presence, continuous residence is where you have an obligation when you file for your citizenship to show that the US has been your main residency. I hear a lot of immigrants say, je fais le va-et-vient. or in French, or they'll say, I travel back and forth a lot. As a lawful permanent resident, you have the requirement so that the US is your main residence. It's not that you have two residencies. The US has to be your main residence. And one way of showing that is showing that you still have that strong connection to the US. And the physical presence requirement is actually the number of days when you actually count it on your hand. So it's two different requirements, very, slightly different. One is main residence, the other one is physical presence. So some people believe that as a green card holder, if you travel to the US every 6 months, you'll be okay. That deals a little bit with the continuous residence. However, for physical presence, you'll notice that they'll actually count the number of days that you've been out of the country. And for you to qualify for citizenship, you want to show that you've been in the country more than you've been out, which means in the last 5 years, you've been physically present for more than 915 days, 914, 915 days. However, if someone comes to me and has exactly 915 days of being physically present in the last 5 years, I would probably counsel them, listen, let's wait a little bit longer for you to accumulate more days physically in the US, because USCIS is going to be looking at both requirements, physical presence and continuous residence. So just because you physically have the required number of days that is the bare minimum doesn't mean that immigration is going to be satisfied as to whether you were actually residing in the US in the last 5 years. So each case is a little different, depending on the person's circumstance, their travel history, also where they're, it's a big difference if your wife lives abroad, or for example, if your wife lives in the US, right? Because having your spouse be abroad, and as a green card holder, you're traveling a lot and you're abroad with your spouse, does not help you prove that your continuous residence is in the US, for example.
Awesome. So, attorney, one of the questions I have here is, well, this is more surrounding green cards, but I think that this can go into wait times for citizenship as well. So once you receive how long can it take to receive a green card once all the required documents are submitted? And I think we can definitely add to that question regarding citizenship. How long does it take for me to become a citizen?
Sure. So with USCIS, if you go online, they do publish their processing time, right? So right now for green card holders, I believe the processing time is about 1.5 years, if I'm not mistaken. However, on a practical level, that's not what we're seeing in our cases. So cases that are filed this calendar year when it comes to green cards, we're seeing are approved before 6 months. And when it comes to citizenship, and we'll go into this a little bit more, we're seeing that citizenship applications are being approved within 3 to 4 months. Again, that's because 2024 is an election year, and USCIS has made it very clear that citizenship applications are definitely a priority for them.
Agreed. Thank you, attorney.
Yeah.
So you
So
mentioned
here,
that there was a civics exam and an interview that's part of the citizenship process. Mm-hmm.
it's very easy to get prepared for the civics portion as well as the English portion of the exam. Online on uscis.gov, all of the questions are listed with the answers, and they also have apps available now where you can download free apps that get you prepared for the civics portion of the test. And it's also very common that in communities you can find free classes at the library, for example, where they will actually prepare you for a citizenship appointment.
Wonderful.
So need to waive the English or civics test. What do I do? This becomes an issue, what we've noticed with our elderly clients, right? So there's a formula that you can follow to see if you look at the person's age versus the amount of time that they've been a green card holder, whether they'll automatically be waived for the English test. So for example, if someone is 50 years old and has lived in the US as a lawful permanent resident for more than 20 years, the English test is automatically waived. If they're 55 years old and have lived here as a green card holder for 15 years, it's waived. And if they've lived here, if they're 65 years old or older and have lived as a permanent green card holder for 20 years, then the English test is going to be waived. However, if you have a parent, if you have anyone with a disability, a mental impairment, and if you're able to get the form N648 signed by a medical professional, by your doctor, by someone who's certified, and they'll be able to provide the supporting evidence to USCIS. USCIS will, of course, waive the English or the civics test if they see that you don't have the physical or mental ability to actually take the test.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So what are the benefits of becoming a US citizen? From what I've seen, not only in just being an immigrant myself and also in the community and definitely as an immigration attorney, some immigrants are very apprehensive about becoming a US citizen because they feel like they're turning their back on their home countries. First of all, the US government does allow you to have dual nationality. Now, whether you're able to sustain that dual nationality is going to depend on your home countries. So some countries will automatically take away your citizenship if you become a citizen of another country, but that's very rare. Most countries, they do allow you to have multiple passports. So if you have your European passport, are you able to also have a US passport? Absolutely, yes, right? So the benefits of becoming a US citizen are, firstly, you're protected from deportation. So as a green card holder residing in the US, it does not matter if you lived as a green card holder since being a minor. It does not make a difference. You have to be a US citizen to be protected from deportation. So some of the saddest cases that we've seen in the firm is where we have young immigrants in their 20s and their early 30s who have lived here since they were very young children, who they don't even realize they're not US citizens because they were basically raised as Americans. They get in trouble with the law because of that. That triggers a deportation case, and they're deported to their home country that they have no ties to. They don't speak the language. And all of that is because when they never applied to become a US citizen. It's either when their parent became a US citizen and they were still under the age of 18, that parent didn't automatically file for them to become US citizens. Or when they became 18 themselves and they qualified to file for citizenship, that they didn't take advantage of that process and actually apply for citizenship themselves. So it's really, really important to remember, as a green card holder, you are not protected from deportation. The only thing that protects an immigrant from deportation is if you are a US citizen, okay? Can you go back to the other slide, the previous slide for a second? Okay. And another benefit, of course, is having that US passport, right? So that having a US passport will definitely make a difference when it comes to your traveling, when it comes to having access to other countries, and you can use your US passport also in the US as an ID, etc. You also have the ability to vote in the federal elections and state elections. Again, green card holders, immigrants are not able to vote. There are some long-term cost savings because at one point, once you're a US citizen, you don't have to worry about applying for another green card status. You don't have to worry about continuously applying to renew and renew and renew your green card and each time having to pay a filing fee. And finally, as a US citizen, you're able to petition for more family members because as a US citizen, you're able, for example, to petition for a sibling. You're also able to make sure that when you petition for your spouse or your minor children, those cases are put at the priority of the system. They don't have to wait as long as other categories, and you're also able to petition for your parent. And the bonus is no more dealing with immigration agencies, which is always great.
Awesome.
Awesome. So here is just where reinforcing that one of the benefits of becoming a US citizen is being protected from deportation, but do not forget when you travel internationally, the only immigrants that are guaranteed re-entry into the US are US citizens. Lawful permanent residents, green card holders, are not guaranteed re-entry when they leave the United States. Legally speaking, every time someone with a visa or someone with a green card returns from an international travel, you're actually submitting an application to re-enter. And it's not guaranteed, okay? And you could be deported for criminal acts, for being a threat, for violating the terms of your green card. So you want to be very mindful of that. The absolute protection, obviously, is becoming a U.S. citizen. Next slide, please. Okay, great. And what are the benefits of having that U.S. passport? So we spoke about it a little bit. So when you have a U.S. passport, you have visa-free access to over 189 countries in the world, which is amazing because as a green card holder, you only have access to the countries where your home country has access to. So if you have a passport for the Bahamas, and you want to go to France, for example, first you have to look up the requirements for Bahamian citizens traveling to France and whether you need a visa or not. As a U.S. Citizen holding a U.S. passport, at least as of now, I know they're in the process of changing that moving forward, you would be able to travel to Europe without a visa. Easy re-entry into the U.S., and this is very important, ability to live abroad without any time restrictions. A U.S. citizen has the ability to live abroad permanently. A lawful permanent resident does not, right? Very, very important distinction.
All right. Attorney, I have a question here open, and I believe this is pertaining to the continuous residence portion of the presentation. So they want to know if there's any way that they can request permission to live abroad if they have no way of actually living here. And if that's going to go into the time that they require in order to apply for citizenship.
Sure. So as a green card holder, you do have the ability to apply for permission to live abroad and not to re-enter. The maximum amount of time is going to be 2 years. However, the time that you're out of the country that's already been pre-approved is not going to be set aside for your citizenship application, for example. So if you're going to be abroad for 1 year, if you're going to be abroad for 2 years, and it's been pre-approved by the U.S. government, that's okay. But don't think you're going to come back to the U.S. and the 2 years that you were abroad with permission is going to count towards the 5 years of continuous presence that you need to qualify for citizenship.
Thank you for clarifying that, attorney.
Great. So let's take a look at the filing fees. The current filing fees for the N400 is $760, and the green card renewals are $460. Now, these fees were recently updated as of April 1st of this year. The N400 is going to be a one-time fee, and you're a U.S. citizen for life, while the green card holder renewals, you're going to be renewing every 10 years your green card, okay? And you're going to be subject to increases. So why is 2024 the best time to file for citizenship? Why is now the time to invest in actually becoming a U.S. citizen? Well, like we said earlier, we have seen cases that are being expedited because it's an election year, right? The U.S. government is getting ready for a federal election. They want as many U.S. citizens as possible to take part in that election. So they have prioritized and are expediting cases for citizenship. We have cases that are approved within 3 months. We have cases that are approved within 4 months. It really depends on how many cases they get, but we are seeing that they are making it a priority since it is an election year. And if you do become a citizen before November, you'll be able to participate in the federal election. And we all know that this year is going to be a very, very important year for elections. And lastly, the fees were just updated now. And we just hope that they're not going to be updated anytime soon. But if they are, most likely the fees are going to go up again. So you want to make sure to take advantage of the current fee structure.
Awesome. So just to kind of put a wrap on our presentation today, we've discussed citizenship. We've also discussed why this year is a good year to become a citizen. And, just to sum up everything, attorney, what would be your what would be your message to all of our viewers for today's webinar?
Well, firstly, you definitely want to take advantage of the current immigration system. The reason I say that is the Biden administration has done a really great job in the last 2, 3 years of expediting the adjudication of some of these cases. And that's not only for citizenship. The reason that green card applications are being approved now within 6 months instead of a year and a half or sometimes 2 years is because they've changed the way that they're processing their cases. They no longer require an in-person appointment if they see that the packet is full and complete. They no longer require that the field office that is local to your address is the one that makes the final decision. So they've made a lot of changes internally and in their structure to kind of expedite and really review as many cases as possible and to speed up the backlog. You want to take advantage of how that's currently set up. Obviously, for citizenship, it's a priority right now, so you want to make sure to take advantage of it. And lastly, let's say that we have a new president coming into the office, right? If we have a new government that's going to be installed in January of next year, if I were in your shoes, meaning the shoes of an immigrant, looking as to whether they should file or not, I would want my application not only filed, but approved before January, right? Because once that new administration is installed, if it is Trump, he's made it very clear that on day one, he's shutting down immigration. So does that mean he's shutting down only the border? Does that mean he's also putting a pause on all cases so that they're reviewed under his policy? We don't know. But if I were an immigrant looking as to when I should file, I would definitely file now so that my application has the possibility of being approved before the end of the year.
Awesome. So, attorney, thank you so much for being so honest and candid with us regarding the reality of the political climate and the elections coming up. It's very important for us to heed to the advice of the professionals. Attorney, thank you so much for your time. Remember that we're more than happy to assist you with your immigration related case. Our phone number is 305-371-8846. You may contact us on our email address at intro@elizeelawfirm.com. The spelling of that is right on the screen. And if you want to go ahead and take a look at our website, we definitely have many resources where you can definitely see topics of interest and also write to us from our website submission form. Thank you so much for everyone's time. We hope you have a great evening ahead.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us.